হ্যালো ফ্রেন্ডস, ওয়েলকাম টু মাই চ্যানেল। আজকে তোমাদের খুরমিগুপ্তা বই থেকে সার্ভেইং কোশ্চেনগুলো আলোচনা করব। তো চলো শুরু করা যাক। কোশ্চেন নম্বর 1, ইন প্লেন সার্ভেইং হোয়াট ইজ ডান? অপশন নম্বর বি ইজ দ্য রাইট আনসার। দ্য কার্ভেচার অফ দ্য আর্থ ইজ নট টেকেন ইন্টু কনসিডারেশন। Let me tell you, there are two types of surveying: plane surveying and geodetic surveying. In case of plane surveying, the curvature of the earth is not taken into consideration, but in case of geodetic surveying, the curvature of the earth is taken into consideration. Next question, question number 2, in geodetic surveying, the curvature of the earth is taken into consideration. The statement is right or wrong? Option number A is right answer, agree. Next question 3, the curvature of the earth is taken into consideration if the limit of survey is, option number D is the right answer, more than 250 km square. Next question 4, the difference in length between the arc and the subtended chord on the surface of the earth for a distance of 18.2 km is only, option number D is the right answer, 100 mm. Next question 5, the difference between the sum of the angles of a spherical triangle on the earth's surface and the angles of the corresponding plane triangle for every 195.5 km square of area is only, option number A is the right answer, 1 second. Next question number 6, in order to determine the natural features such as valley, river, lakes, etc., the surveying preferred is, option number D is the right answer, topographical surveying. Next question, the reconnaissance surveying is carried out to determine the artificial features such as road, railway, canal, bridge, etc. No, option number B is the right answer, because reconnaissance surveying is done to determine the feasibility and the rough cost of the scheme. Next question, the surveying used to determine additional details such as boundaries of fields is called, option number C is the right answer, cadastral surveying. Next question, the fundamental principle of surveying is to work from, option number A is the right answer, whole to part, because in this principle the accumulation of error is prevented. Next question, the working from whole to part is done in surveying in order to ensure that, option number D is the right answer, error and mistakes of one portion do not affect the remaining portion. Next question, the representative fraction of the scale is the ratio of the distance of the map or the drawing to the corresponding distance on the ground. Option number A is the right answer, yes. Next question, when 1 centimeter on a map represents 10 meter on the ground, the representative fraction of the scale is, so we know representative fraction RF equal to drawing distance divided by ground distance. So drawing distance 1 centimeter and ground distance 10 meter equal to 1000 centimeter. So C will be right answer, 1 by 1000. Next question, the representative fraction of 1 by 2500 means that the scale is, so we have to convert both the numerator and denominator in same unit. Question number 13, the representative fraction of 1 by 2500 means that the scale is, option number C is the right answer, 1 centimeter equal to 25 meter, because if we calculate 1 centimeter equal to 25 meter and if we convert the meter into centimeter, so it will be 1 by 2500. Question number 14, a plane scale is used to read 2 dimensions. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 15, a diagonal scale is used to read 3 dimensions. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 16, a scale which has a common representative fraction but read in different measures is called comparative scale. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 17, a scale used for measuring fractional parts of the smallest deviation of the main scale is known as vernier scale. A is the right answer, correct. Question number 18, in a direct vernier the smallest deviation of a vernier is shorter than the smallest deviation of a primary scale. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 19, in a retrograde vernier the smallest deviation of a vernier is longer than the smallest deviation of its primary scale. Option number C is the right answer. Next question 20, with a simple vernier readings can be taken in one direction only. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 21, measurements taken with a wrong scale can be corrected by using the relation. None of the option is correct, so option number D is the right answer. True length equal to wrong scale divided by true scale into measured length. Question number 22, if x is the smallest deviation on the main scale and n are the number of deviation on the vernier, then the least count of the vernier is, option number D is the right answer, x by n. Next question 23, an average length of a face is 80 centimeter. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 24. The method of measuring distance by pacing is chiefly used in reconnaissance survey. Option number A is the right answer. Next question 25. A metallic tape is made of an alloy of nickel and steel. No, false. Option number B is the right answer. It is invert tape which is made of an alloy nickel and steel. Next question 26. An invert tape is generally used for accurate measurement of distance because it possesses low coefficient of thermal expansion. Option number B is the right answer. Next question 27. The instrument attached to the wheel of a vehicle in order to measure the distance travelled is called odometer. Option number C is the right answer. Question number 28. It is more convenient and gives better result while measuring horizontal distance by stepping method. Number A is the right answer. Down the hill. Question number 29. Which of the following statement is correct? Option number A. The line ranger is used for fixing intermediate points on the chain lines. Right. Option number B. The indirect ranging is resorted to when the ends of a line are not intervisible due to high ground. Right. Option number C. The chain man at the forward end of a chain is called leader. Right. Option D, all of the above. So option D is the right answer, all of the above. Question number 30. The correction to be applied to each 30-meter chain for a line measured along a slope theta is L into L minus cos theta. So option number B is the right answer, 30 into 1 minus cos theta. Look at this figure. This is the slope of the ground and length of this slope is L. But in case of this line is straight, then it will be L cos theta. So the actual correction will be L minus L cos theta. Question number 31. Direct ranging is possible when end stations are mutually intervisible. Option number C is the right answer. Question number 32. Error in measured length due to incorrect holding of chain is compensating error. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 33. When the length of the chain used in measuring distance is shorter than the standard length, the error in measured distance will be compensating error. No, it is a cumulative error because it will affect the survey work seriously, and the cumulative error is proportional to the length of the line, length of the survey line, and the compensating error is proportional to the root over of length of the line. The compensating error does not affect the survey work seriously. Question number 34. When the length of the chain used in measuring distance is longer than the standard length, then the error in measured distance will be negative error. Option number B is the right answer, but the correction will be positive. Next question 35. If a chain is used at a temperature higher, lower or equal to the temperature at which it was calibrated, the error in the measured length is positive. Option number B is the right answer, lower than. If the chain is used at a temperature lower than the temperature at which it was calibrated, then the error in the measured length will be positive. Question number 36. If a chain is used at a temperature higher, lower or equal to the temperature at which it was calibrated, the error in the measured length is negative. Just the opposite of the previous question. So option number C is the right answer, higher than. If error is positive, the correction will be negative, and if error is negative, the correction will be positive. Next question 37. The error in measured length due to sag of a chain or tape is known as negative error. Option number B is the right answer. Next question 38. When the measured length is less than the actual length, the error is known as negative error. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 39. The positive error makes the measured distance. Option number B is the right answer, more than the actual distance. Question number 40. Which of the following statement is correct? Option A. The error in measured length due to bad ranging is compensating error. No, it is cumulative error. Option B. If the chain used in measuring a distance is too short, the error is positive error. Right. Option C. The error in measured length due to careless holding of a chain is cumulative error. No, it is compensating error. Option number D. When the pull applied while measuring with a tape is more than the standard pull for the tape, the error in the measured length is positive. No, the correction will be positive, but the error will be negative. Question number 41. The correction to the measured length will be negative when the chain is held on the ground sloping upwards. Yes, option A is the right answer. Question number 42. When h is the difference in heights between the extremities of a chain length, then the correction for slope record is h square by 2l. Option number C is the right answer. Question number 43. When the length of a chain along a slope of theta is L, the correction for slope required is, option number C is the right answer, L minus L cos theta or 2L sin square theta by 2. Question number 44. Cumulative error that occur in chaining are proportional to, option number A, length of the survey line. Question number 45, compensating error that occur in chaining are proportional to root over of L, where L is the length of the survey line. Question number 46, when a tape of length L and weight W Newton per meter is stretched at its end with a pull P Newton, then the correction for sag record is W square L square divided by 24 P square. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 47, the tension at which the effects of pull and sag for a tape are neutralized is known as normal tension. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 48, when a chain of desired length L and actual length L dash is used for measuring a line, the true length of the line will be L dash divided by L into measured length. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 49, the longest of the chain lines used in making a survey line is generally regarded as a baseline. Right, option A is the right answer. Look at this figure. Suppose property will be enclosed by the chain line. Okay, this is the station A, B, C, D. This is the main survey line, main chain line, and this longest line from here to here, this is called baseline, and this line over baseline and main station is called check line, and this line is called tie line over main line and check line. Question number 50, a line joining the apex of a triangle to some fixed point on the opposite side is called check line. Option number A is the right answer. This is check line, apex of the triangle and the fixed point on the baseline is called check line. Question number 51, a line joining some fixed points on the main survey line is called a tie line. Option number B is the right answer. This line is called tie line. The longest line of the chain on which the entire framework built, known as baseline. Then check line, the line joining the apex of the triangle and the fixed point on the opposite side is called check line, and this line are taken to check the accuracy of the framework. And tie line, the line joining some fixed points on the main survey line is called tie line. The tie lines are taken to locate the interior details more in details. Question number 52, a baseline in a chain survey, option number C is the right answer, fixes up the direction of all others. Question number 53, a plumb bob is required, option A, when measuring distance along slope in a hill country. Right. Option B, for accurate centering of a theodolite over a station mark. Right. Option C, for testing the verticality of ranging poles. Right. So option number D is the right answer, all of the above. Question number 54, chain surveying is most suitable when, option A, area to be surveyed is small. Right. Option B, ground is fairly level and open with simple details. Right. Option C, plans are required on a large scale. Right. Option number D is the right answer, all of the above. Question number 55, chain surveying consists of arrangement of framework of triangle because a triangle is the only simple plane figure which can be plotted uniquely if, option A is the right answer, three sides of the triangles are known. Question number 56, in a well conditioned triangle no angle should be less than 30 degree and greater than 120 degree. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 57, a check line in a chain surveying, option number A is the right answer, checks the accuracy of the framework. Question number 58, a tie line in a chain surveying enables the surveyor to locate the interior details which are far away from the main chain line. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 59, when the position of a point is to be located accurately by a perpendicular offset, the direction of the perpendicular is set out by means of optical square. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 60, when the position of a point is to be fixed most accurately, it should be located by oblique offset. No. Option B is the right answer, false. It should be located always by perpendicular offset. Question number 61, the accuracy in laying down the perpendicular offset and in measuring them depends upon scale of plotting, length of offset, importance of the object. All of these. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 62, when the length of offset is 20 meter, it is called long offset. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 63, the limiting length of the offset is 15 meter when its perpendicular direction is set out by an eye. Option number C is the right answer. Question number 64, the instrument used for setting out an offset at an right angle is called open crosstaff. Option number A is the right answer. But French crosstaff used for setting out an offset at 45 degree and adjustable crosstaff at any angle. And we know by optical square we can take 90 degree offset accurately. Question number 65. In a field book, the booking is commenced at the bottom of a page and worked upwards. True. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 66. The adjustable cross tab is used for setting out an offset at any angle. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 67. For setting out an offset at any angle of 45 degree, French cross tab is used. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 68. A French cross tab has a magnetic compass at the top. Option number B is the right answer. No. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 69. An open cross tab is commonly used for setting out long offset. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 70. An optical square is used for the same purpose as the cross tab, but it is more accurate. Yes. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 71. The angle of intersection of the horizon glass and index glass in an optical square is 45 degree. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 72. The horizon glass in an optical square is half silvered and half unsilvered. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 73. The index glass in an optical square is wholly silvered. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 74. The optical square is used to measure angle by double reflection method. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 75. The instrument belonging to a class of reflecting instrument is called line ranger, right, box sector and rise, prismatic compass, right. So option number D is the right answer, all of these. Question number 76. In an optical square, the angle between the first incident ray and last reflected ray is 90 degree. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 77. When the object lies on the left hand side of the chain line, then while taking offset with an optical square, it is held in right hand upright. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 78. The angle between the reflecting surface of a prism square is 45 degree. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 79. The obstacle which obstructs vision but not chaining is a hill. Option number C is the right answer. Question number 80. The obstacle which obstructs chaining but not vision is a river. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 81. The building is an example of obstacle in which chaining and vision both are obstructed. Option number A is the right answer. Correct. Question number 82. The conventional symbol as shown in the figure 5.5a represents a railway bridge. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 83. The conventional symbol as shown in the figure 5.5b represents a single line railway line. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 84. The conventional symbol as shown in the figure 5.5c represents a canal with log. Option number C is the right answer. Question number 85. In a prismatic compass, the zero of a graduated ring is located at south end. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 86. The true or geographical meridians through the various stations converge to the poles. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 87. The direction of a true meridian at a station is invariable. Option number A is the right answer. Right. Question number 88. The line in which the plane passing through the given point and north and south poles intersects the surface of the earth is called true meridian. Option number C is the right answer. Question number 89. In a whole circle system, the bearing of a line measured. Option A always clockwise from the south point of the reference meridian towards the line right round the circle. Wrong. Option B clockwise or anti-clockwise from the east or west, whichever is nearer the line towards the north or south. Wrong. Option C clockwise or anti-clockwise from the north or south, whichever is nearer the line towards the east or west. Wrong. So option number D is the right answer, none of the above, because in a whole circle system the bearing of a line measured always clockwise from north point of the reference meridian towards the line right round the circle. Question number 90. In a quadrantal system, the bearing of a line is measured. Option number C is the right answer, clockwise or anti-clockwise from the north or south, whichever is nearer the line towards east or west. Question number 91. The bearing observed with a prismatic compass is always whole circle bearing of a line. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 92. The bearing observed with a surveyor compass is always quadrantal bearing of a line. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 93. In a whole circle bearing system, south 25 degree 15 second east corresponds to quadrantal bearing south 25 degree 15 second east. So if we take whole circle bearing of this line, so we will calculate from north. So here to here the angle will be 90 degree plus 25 degree 15 seconds. So answer will be 115 degree 15 seconds. So option number A is the right answer for question number 93. Next question 94. The whole circle bearing is given in group A and match the correct answer from the group B in quadrantal bearing system. So for group B, south 35 degree to 35 second west, we have to convert this quadrantal bearing into whole circle bearing. So for question number A, south 35 degree 45 second west. So 35 degree 45 second west, south west. So the whole circle bearing of this line will be 180 degree plus this angle. So answer will be 215 degree 45 second. Option number C. Option number C is the right answer. Next quadrantal bearing north 46 degree 45 west. So north 46 degree 45 degree west, this angle. So whole circle bearing of this line will be this angle up to this angle. So 360 degree minus this angle. So we will get the whole circle bearing of this line. So 360 degree minus 46 degree 45 seconds. So we will get the value 313 degree 15 second. Option number D is the right answer. Next option C, south 31 degree 45 degree, south 31 degree 45 second east. This is south 31 degree 45 second east. So whole circle bearing of this line will be from north to here. So we will get this angle by deducting this angle to 180 degree. So 180 degree minus 31 degree 45 second. So we will get the value 148 degree 15 second. Option number B is the right answer. Option number B is the right answer. 148 degree 15 second. Next question, question number D. Next question, option number D, north 62 degree 20 second east. So north 62 degree 20 second east. So north is this quadrant. So and the whole circle bearing of this line will be this angle clockwise. So option number A is the right answer. Option number A is the right answer. Mind it, whole circle bearing is taken always clockwise from the north to the corresponding line, and quadrantal bearing is taken clockwise or anti-clockwise from south or north towards the east or west, whichever is nearer. Question number 95. In a whole circle bearing system, north 25 degree 15 second west corresponds to north 25 degree 15 second west. That means this angle. So if we want to convert this quadrantal bearing into whole circle bearing, the bearing of this line will be from north to clockwise to this line. So the angle will be 360 degree minus this angle. So we will get the value 334 degree 45 second east. Option number D is the right answer for this question 95. Question number 96. The bearing of a line in the direction of progress of the survey is called back bearing. No, this is called forward bearing. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 97. If the forward bearing of a line is 36 degree 15 second, its back bearing will be 216 degree 15 second, because we know the formula back bearing equal to forward bearing plus minus 180 degree. When the value of forward bearing is less than 180 degree, then its back bearing will be summed up by 180 degree, and when the value of forward bearing is greater than 180 degree, then the back bearing will be the difference between the corresponding bearing and the 180 degree. Question number 98. If the forward bearing of a line is dash, its back bearing will be 36 degree 15 second. So back bearing is less, so we have to add 180 degree. So 180 degree plus 36 degree 15 second. So 216 degree 15 second. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 99. If the forward bearing of a line is north 26 degree 35 second west, its back bearing will be the reverse in quadrant. Option number A is the right answer. South 26 degree 35 second east. Question number 100. When the whole circle bearing of two lines AB and AC are 115 degree and 41 degree respectively, then the included angle BAC will be. Look, the bearing of a line AB 115 degree and bearing of a line AC 41 degree. So the included angle BAC will be the difference between them. So 115 degree minus 41 degree equal to 74 degree. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 101. The horizontal angle between the true meridian and a survey line is called azimuth or true bearing of the line. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 102. The horizontal angle between the true meridian and the magnetic meridian is known as the magnetic declination. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 103. Due to the magnetic influence of the earth, the magnetic needle of the prismatic compass is inclined downwards towards the pole. This inclination of the needle with the horizontal is known as dip of the needle. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 104. At the equator, the amount of dip is 0. Option number A is the right answer, 0 degree. But at the magnetic pole it is 90 degree. Question number 105. At the magnetic pole the amount of dip is 90 degree. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 106. Which of the following statement is wrong? Option A. The magnetic meridian coincides with true meridian at all places. No. Option number B. The magnetic meridian does not vary from place to place on Earth's surface. No, wrong. Option number C. The magnetic declination is at a place is constant. No, it varies. So option number D is the right answer. All of the above. Question number 107. The line of Earth's magnetic field run from north to south. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 108. In order to fix up the direction of the survey lines in the compass survey, the horizontal angle between the survey line and a fixed line of reference is measured. This fixed line reference is the magnetic meridian. Right. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 109. The line passing through the points at which the magnetic declination is equal at a given time are isogonic lines. Option number A is the right answer. But the line passing through the points at which the magnetic declination is 0, then it is known as agonic line. Question number 110. The diurnal variation of the magnetic needle is less near the equator. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 111. In high latitudes the diurnal variation of the magnetic needle is greater. Agree. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 112. The diurnal variation of the magnetic needle is more in summer than winter at the same place. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 113. When the magnetic bearing of the sun at noon is 185 degree 20 seconds, the magnetic declination will be at noon. Sun is exactly at the meridian, at the true meridian. So magnetic bearing equal to 185 degree 20 seconds, and we know the formula magnetic declination equal to true bearing minus magnetic bearing. So true bearing is 180 degree and magnetic bearing is 185 degree 20 seconds. So magnetic declination will be minus 5 degree 20 seconds, which is negative. It means 5 degree 20 second west is the declination. Option number B is the right answer for this question. Question number 114. When the magnetic declination is 5 degree 20 second east, the magnetic bearing of the sun at noon will be. The true bearing of the sun at noon in northern hemisphere is 360 degree and in southern hemisphere is 180 degree. So magnetic bearing will be 360 degree minus 5 degree 20 second equal to, which will be equal to 354 degree 40 second. Option number D is the right answer for this question. Question number 115. The magnetic bearing of a line is 55 degree 30 second and the magnetic declination is 4 degree 30 second west. The true bearing of a line will be. Formula magnetic declination equal to true bearing minus magnetic bearing. We know declination is 4 degree 30 second west. That means negative. So if we put the value magnetic declination equal to 4 degree 30 second and magnetic bearing equal to 55 degree 30 second, then true bearing will be 51 degree. Question number 116. The magnetic bearing of a line is south 35 degree 30 second east and the magnetic declination is 4 degree 10 second east. The true bearing of a line will be. We know the formula true bearing equal to magnetic bearing plus magnetic declination. So magnetic bearing of the line will be quadrangular bearing south 35 degree 30 second east. So magnetic bearing will be 180 degree minus this angle. So 144 degree 30 second will be magnetic bearing. So true bearing will be 144 degree 30 second plus 4 degree 10 second. True bearing formula by the true bearing formula. So true bearing will be 148 degree 148 degree 40 second. And if we convert this true bearing into quadrangular bearing, it will be 180 degree minus 148 degree 40 seconds. So 31 degree 20 seconds. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 117. When the magnetic declination is negative, the magnetic meridian is towards the west of the true meridian. Right. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 118. The theodolite is an instrument used for measuring very accurately horizontal and vertical angle. Option number C is the right answer. Question number 119. The process of turning the telescope of a theodolite over its supporting axis through 180 degree in a vertical plane is called transiting right, reversing right, plunging right. Option D is the right answer. Any one of these. Question number 120. Any imaginary line joining the point of intersection of the crosshairs of the diaphragm and the optical center of the object glass is known as line of collimation. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 121. A line joining the optical center of the object glass and the center of the eyepiece is known as axis of the telescope. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 1, 2, 2. The axis of the bubble tube must be perpendicular to the vertical axis. Right. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 1, 2, 3. The line of collimation must be parallel to the horizontal axis. No. Option number B is the right answer. The line of collimation must be parallel to the level line. Question number 1 to 4. The axis of telescope level must be parallel to the line of collimation. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 1 to 5. In the surveying telescope, crosshairs are fitted in. Option number C is the right answer. In front of the eyepiece. Question number 1 to 6. In the surveying telescope, diaphragm is held. Option number C is the right answer. Nearer to the eyepiece. Question number 1 to 7. The image formed by the objective in the plane of crosshair is real and inverted. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 1 to 8. An imaginary line tangential to the longitudinal curve of the level at the center of the tube is called axis of the level tube. Option number C is the right answer. Question number 1 to 9. An axis about which the telescope can be rotated in a horizontal plane is called vertical axis. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 130. The real image of an object formed by the objective must lie at the center of the telescope. No. Option number B is the right answer. The real image of an object formed by the objective must lie in the center of the crosshairs. Question number 131. When the image formed by the objective is not situated in the plane of crosshairs, the objective should be focused. Option number C is the right answer. Question number 132. When the crosshairs are not clearly visible, the eyepiece should be focused. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 133. For removing parallax, the eyepiece should be focused for distinct vision of crosshairs, and the image of the object should be brought in the plane of crosshairs. Both option A and B correct. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 134. The capacity of a telescope of producing sharp image is called definition. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 135. The brightness of the image varies inversely as the square of the magnifying power. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 136. The image produced by the telescope will be dull if it has higher magnification. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 137. A low magnification of a telescope produces bright image. Option number B is the right answer, because the brightness of the image is inversely proportional to the square of the magnifying power. Question number 138. If the definition of a telescope is poor, it will produce a clear and distinct image. No. Option number B is the right answer. False. Question number 139. The ratio of focal length of the objective to that of an eyepiece of a telescope is called magnification. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 140. The power of a telescope to form distinguishable images of the object separated by small angular distance is called definition, brightness, sensitivity, resolving power. Option number D is the right answer. Resolving power. Question number 141. The magnification of a telescope is the ratio of angle subtended at the eye by the virtual image of the object to that subtended by the object Right. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 142. The angle of field of telescope, option A, is independent of the size and objective glass. Right. Option B, increases as the size of the eyepiece increases. Right. Option C, decreases as the distance between eyepiece and object increases. Right. Option number D is the right answer. All of the above. Question number 143. The capability of showing small angular movements of level tube vertically is called its sensitivity. Right. Question number 144. In order to measure a horizontal angle more accurately than a vernier, option number A is the right answer. A method of repetition is used. Question number 145. In measuring horizontal angles, the theodolite should be turned. Option number B is the right answer. Clockwise from back station to the forward station. Question number 146. The method of reiteration of measuring horizontal angle is generally preferred when several angles are to be measured at a particular station. Yes, option number A is the right answer. Question number 147. An angle made by the survey line with the prolongation of the preceding line is known as deflection angle. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 148. A deflection angle in a traverse is equal to the difference between the included angle and the 180 degree. Question number 149. The deflection angle may have any value between 0 degree and 80 degree. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 150. An angle measured clockwise from the preceding survey line to the following survey line is called direct angle. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 151. The deflection angle may be directly obtained by setting the instrument to read on 0 degree at back station. So option number A is the right answer. Question number 152. The direct angle may have any value between, option number D is the right answer, between 0 degree and 360 degree. Question number 153. In railway and highway works, the method of measuring the which angle is generally employed? Option number B is the right answer. Deflection angle is generally employed. Question number 154. An angle between the inclined line of sight and horizontal is called vertical angle. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 155. Generally the deflection angle is measured twice, once with the telescope normal and once with the telescope reversed. Option A is the right answer. True. Question number 156. In locating the details of an object whose direct measurement is not possible due to some unavoidable obstruction, the method is by angle from one station and distance from other station. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 157. In locating the details of inaccessible objects visible at least from transit station, the method employed is option A by angle and distance from the same station. No. Option B by angle from one station and distance from other station. No. Option C by distance from two different stations. No. Measuring angles from at least two stations. Number D is the right answer. None of the above. Question number 158. The traverse by the method of deflection angle is chiefly used in canals, highway, railway, all of these. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 159. In precision theodolite traverse for road and railways, the angular error of closure should not exceed, option number D is the right answer, 1 second into root over of n, where n is the number of angles. Question number 160. The projection of a traverse line on a line perpendicular to the meridian is known as departure of the line. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 161. Which of the following statement is wrong? Option A. The distance measured parallel to the north-south line is called latitude of the line. No, it's right. Option number B. The distance measured parallel to the east-west line is called departure of the line. Right. Option C. The latitude is positive when measured downward or southward. No, this statement is wrong. So option number C is the right answer. And option number D. The departure is negative when measured to the left or westward. Right. So option number C is the right answer for this question. Question number 162. The projection of a traverse line on a line parallel to the meridian is known as the latitude of the line. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 163. In any closed traverse, if the survey work is correct, then option A. The algebraic sum of latitude should be equal to 0. Right. Option B. The algebraic sum of departure should be equal to 0. Right. Option C. The sum of northing should be equal to sum of southing. Right. So option number D is the right answer, all of the above. Question number 164. The latitude of a traverse line is obtained by multiplying its length with the cosine of its reduced bearing. Right. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 165. The departure of a traverse line is obtained by multiplying its length with the tangent of its reduced bearing. No. So option number B is the right answer. Wrong. Question number 166. When the whole circle bearing of a traverse line is between 90 degree and 180 degree, then the departure is positive and latitude is negative. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 167. The latitude and departure of a traverse line are positive when the whole circle bearing of the lines are in the first quadrant. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 168. When the latitudes and departures are so adjusted that the algebraic sum of latitude and departures are equal to 0, the operation is called balancing the traverse. Option number C is the right answer. Question number 169. When the angular and linear measurements are equally precise in traversing, the balancing of a traverse is done by Bowditch's rule. Option number C is the right answer. Question number 170. When the angular measurements of a traverse are more precise than linear measurements, the balancing of a traverse is done by transit rule. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 171. The length of a traverse line may be obtained by option number A, root over of L latitude square plus departure square, right? Option number B, latitude into secant of reduced bearing, right? Option number C, departure into cosecant of reduced bearing, right? So option number D is the right answer, any of the above. Question number 172. The distance by which the last point of the traverse falls short to coincide with the starting point is called the closing error, right? Option number A is the right answer. Question number 173. The method of surveying used for determining the relative heights of points on the surface of the earth is called leveling. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 174. A surface which is normal to the direction of gravity at all points as indicated by a plumb line is known as level surface. Question number 175. An arbitrary surface with reference to which the elevation of a points are measured and compared is called datum surface. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 176. A line normal to the plumb line at all point is called level line. Option number C is the right answer. Question number 177. A vertical line at any point is a line normal to the level surface at that point. Yes, option number A is the right answer. Question number 178. The vertical distance above or below the datum is called reduced level of the point or elevation of the point. It may be positive or negative, RL. So option number D is the right answer, either A or B. Question number 179. The height of instrument is the height of the center of the telescope above the ground where the level is set up. No. Height of instrument is the reduced level of the line of collimation. Question number 180. Match the correct answer from group B for the statement given in the group A. For group A, option A, the first staff reading taken after setting up the instrument is called backside reading. Next option, small b, the last staff reading taken before moving the instrument is called foreside reading. Option number capital D is the right answer. Next, option small c, when the point is above the datum, the reduced level of the point will be positive. Option capital A in group B will be right answer. Option number small d in group A point on which staff is held is called, option number B is the right answer, station point. Next, question number 181. A backside indicates the setting up of the instrument. Option number B is the right answer. Okay, the first staff reading. And last staff reading is the foreside reading. Mind it. Question number 182. The point on which the instrument is set up is called station point. Option number A is the right answer, true. Question number 183. A fixed point of reference of known elevation is called benchmark. Option number C is the right answer. Question number 184. An imaginary line tangential to the longitudinal curve of the bubble tube at its middle point is called axis of level 2. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 185. A staff reading taken on a benchmark or a point of known elevation is called backside reading. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 186. A staff reading taken on a point whose elevation is to be determined as a change point is called foreside reading. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 187. The line of collimation should be horizontal when the staff readings are being taken. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 188. To find the true difference of level between 2 points, the level should be kept exactly midway between the 2 points. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 189. For accurate work, the length of backside and foreside are kept unequal. Option number A is the right answer, agree. Question number 190. The reduced level of the plane of collimation is equal to the height of instrument. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 191. The height of instrument is equal to reduced level of the benchmark plus backside. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 192. The leveling should always commence from a temporary benchmark and end on a permanent benchmark. No, incorrect. It will be vice versa. Question number 193. A method of differential leveling is used in order to find the difference in elevation between 2 points when they are too far apart. Option number A, right. Option number B, there are obstacles between them, right. Option C, difference in elevation between them is too great. right. So option number D is the right answer, all of the above. Question number 194. The collimation method for obtaining the reduced level of points does not provide a check on intermediate size. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 195. The rise and fall method for obtaining the reduced level of the points provides check on back sides, foresides, intermediate sides. All of this. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 196. It is required to find the difference in elevation between 2 points A and B. During leveling, it is found that the staff reading at B is more than the staff reading at A. It indicates that the point A is higher than the point B. Option number A is the right answer. Because the surface with higher staff reading will be down as compared to other. Question number 197. The collimation method is used in. Option number A is the right answer, profile leveling. Question number 198. The rise and fall method is used in. Option number B is the right answer, differential leveling. Question number 199. The method of leveling in which the heights of mountains are found out by observing the temperature at which water boils is known as hypometry. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 200. Which of the following statement is correct? Option number C is the correct because the combined effect of curvature and refraction in a leveling is to increase the staff reading. Question number 201. In leveling, the effect of refraction varies with the atmospheric condition. Yes. Question number 202. When the effect of curvature is taken into consideration in leveling, the true staff reading is obtained by subtracting the correction of curvature from the observed staff reading. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 203. In leveling, the effect of refraction may be taken as 1/7 of that due to curvature. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 204. When the effect of refraction is taken into account in leveling, the true staff reading is obtained by subtracting the correction for refraction from observed staff reading. No. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 205. In leveling, the correction for curvature is in meter is equal to. Option number B is the right answer, 0.0785 d square, where d is the distance from the level to the staff reading in kilometer. Question number 206. In leveling, the correction for combined curvature and refraction in meter is equal to 0.0673 d square. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 207. The error which is not completely eliminated in reciprocal leveling is error due to refraction. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 208. The line joining the points having the same elevation above the datum surface is called contour line. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 209. The contour interval depends upon the nature of the ground, scale of the map, purpose and extent of the surface. All of these. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 210. The vertical distance between any two consecutive contours is called contour interval. Option number C is the right answer. Question number 211. The horizontal distance between any two consecutive contours is called horizontal equivalent. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 212. The contour interval of any survey is inversely proportional to the scale of the map. Option number A is the right answer. Agree. Question number 213. The contour interval should be constant throughout the survey. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 214. The contour lines can cross one another on map only in case of an overhanging cliff. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 215. When several contours coincide, it indicates a vertical cliff. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 216. Which of the following statement is wrong? Option A. A series of close contour lines on map indicates a depression if the higher values are inside. No. Option number B. A series of close contours line on a plane indicates a hill if the higher values are outside. No. Option C. The uniformly spaced contour lines indicates a plane surface. No. So option number D is the right answer, all of the above. Question number 217. The contour lines cross ridge or valley lines at 90 degrees. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 218. The points on a contour gradient will have the same elevation. No. So number D is the right answer. Question number 219. The reduced level of a point on the ground is called spot level or spot height. Option number A or B. Option number C is the right answer, either A or B. Question number 220. In route survey, the most suitable method of contouring is option number C is the right answer, by cross sections. Question number 221. The tachymetric method of contouring is particularly suitable when a contoured map of hill is required. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 222. The spacing of a cross section in hilly country is usually 20 meters. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 223. In the indirect method of contouring, the best method of interpolation of contour is option number C, by arithmetical calculation. Question number 224. The method of surveying in which the fieldwork and plotting work are done simultaneously is called plane tabling. Option number C is the right answer. Question number 225. In plane tabling, the instrument used to measure the horizontal and vertical distance directly is known as telescope analyzer. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 226. The plane table surveying is option number A, most suitable for preparing small scale maps, right? Option B, particularly advantageous in magnetic areas, right? Option number C, less costly than a theodolite survey, right? So option number D is the right answer, all of the above. Question number 227. In plane table surveying, field work is recorded in a field book to be plotted afterwards. No, it is done simultaneously. Question number 228. The operation of turning the table so that all the lines on the paper are parallel to the corresponding lines on the ground is called orientation. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 229. The plotting of small areas which can be commanded from a single station is usually done on the plane table by the method of radiation. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 230. The method of intersection in plane tabling is commonly used for option number A, locating the distant and inaccessible points, right? Option number B, locating the broken boundaries, right? Option C, locating the points which may be used subsequently as the instrument station, right? Option number D is the right answer, all of the above. Question number 231. The method of plane tabling commonly used for establishing the instrument station only is a method of dissection. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 232. According to Lehmann's rule of plane tabling, option A, the distance to the point sought from each of the three rays is proportional to the distance of the three known points from the instrument station. Okay, right? Option B, when the instrument station is outside the great circle, the point sought is always on the same side of the ray drawn to the most distant point as the intersection of the other two rays. Option C, when looking in the direction of the reference point, the point sought is on the same side of each of the three rays. So option number D is the right answer, all of the above. Question number 233. The strength of fix of a plane table from three known points is good if the middle station is nearer than the other two stations. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 234. The strength of fix of a plane table from three known points is poor if the instrument station is near the great circle, right? Option number A is the right answer. Question number 235. A reverse curve consists of two arcs of equal and different radii bending in opposite direction. Option number D is the right answer. So the reverse curve is like this, bending in opposite direction. Question number 236. A compound curve consists of two arcs of equal radii bending in the same direction. No, a compound curve consists of two different radii. Radii means radius. Question number 237. When the centers of the arcs lie on the opposite sides of the common tangent at the junction of the two curves, it is known as reverse curve. I showed you the picture. Question number 238. A simply circular curve is designated by the angle subtended at the center by a chord of particular length. Option number D is the right answer. And the chord length is generally 30 meters. Question number 239. The degree of the curve is angle as subtended by a chord of 30 meter length. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 240. When R is the radius of the curve in meter, D is the degree of the curve, and length of the chord is 30 meter, then relation between R and D is the R equal to 1720 by D. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 241. The angle between the back tangent and forward tangent of a curve is known as angle of intersection. Question number 242. The angle by which forward tangent deflects from back tangent of a curve is called deflection angle. Option number A is the right answer. Question number, look, this is back tangent, this is forward tangent. So this is the included angle and this is the deflection angle. Question number 243. A deflection angle is option C is the right answer, equal to the difference between the angle of intersection and the 180 degree. Look at this figure. So the deflection angle will be 180 degree minus this angle. Suppose this angle is alpha, so deflection angle theta will be equal to 180 degree minus alpha. Question number 244. The length of peg interval for flat curve is 30 meter. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 245. When the length of a chord is less than peg interval, it is known as half chord. Option number C is the right answer. Question number 246. The total length of the curve is equal to the pi r phi by 180 degree. Option number C is the right answer, where r is the radius of the curve in meter and phi is the deflection angle. Question number 247. The length of a long chord is equal to the 2r sin phi by 2. Option number C is the right answer. Look at this figure. So length of the long chord AB will be 2r sin phi by 2. Question number 248. The distance between the midpoint of the long chord and the midpoint of the curve is equal to from here to here, MC. This distance will be r minus r cos phi by 2, which will be equal to r into within bracket 1 minus cos phi by 2. So option number D is the right answer for this question. Question number 249. The deflection angle for any chord is equal to the deflection angle for the preceding chord minus the tangential angle for that chord. No. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 250. When the curve is to be set out over a rough ground, the method used is either B or C, tachometric method or tooth theodolite method. Question number 251. The tooth theodolite method for setting out a curve involves angular measurements only. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 252. In tachometric method of setting out a curve, no chain or tape is used. Right. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 253. A curve of varying radius is known as the transition curve. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 254. The object of introducing a transition curve at the each end of the circular curve is option number A, to obtain a gradual increase of curvature from 0 at the tangent point to the specified quantity at the junction of the transition curve with the circular curve. Right. Option number B, to provide a satisfactory means of obtaining a gradual decrease of the super elevation from 0 on the tangent point to the specified amount on the main circular curve. Right. Option number C, to accomplish gradually the transition from the tangent to the circular curve and from the circular curve to the tangent. Right. So option D will be right answer, all of the above. Question number 255. A transition curve when inserted between the tangent and the circular curve. Option A, should meet the originally straight tangentially. Right. Option B, should meet the circular curve tangentially. Right. Option C, the rate of increase of curvature along the transition curve should be same as that of increase of super elevation. Right. So option number D will be right answer, all of these. Question number 256. The amount of super elevation on railway is equal to GV square by GR. Capital GV square by GR. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 257. Where capital G is the distance between in centimeters of rail in meters, where r is the radius of curve in meter and v is the speed of vehicle in meter per second. Question number 257. In the above question, the expression v square by gr is called centrifugal ratio. Option number C is the right answer. Question number 258. The magnitude of super elevation depends upon the speed of the vehicle and the radius of the curve. Right. Option number A is the right answer. Because we know the relation super elevation equal to GV square by GR. Question number 259. The fundamental requirement of the spiral curve is that its radius of curvature at any point shall vary inversely as the distance from the beginning of the curve. Option A is the right answer. Question number 260. The curve used for ideal transition curve is a clothoid spiral. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 261. The perpendicular offset from a tangent to the junction of a transition curve and circular curve is equal to L square by 6r. Option number C is the right answer. Because it is the 4 times the shift of the curve, and we know shift of the curve is L square by 24r. So it will be L square by 6r. Option number C is the right answer, where L is the length of transition curve and r is the radius of circular curve. Of question number 262. The shift of a curve is equal to L square by 24r. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 263. The shift of a curve is 1/4 the perpendicular offset from a tangent to the junction of transition curve and circular curve. Option number D is the right answer. This is the combination of circular curve and transition curve. This is transition curve, this is circular curve, and this is transition curve. Transition curve is, we know what is transition curve. A curve of variable radius is known as transition curve, and this is shift, the amount by which it is shifted. The transition curve is shifted. This is shift, and it is L square by 24R. Question number 263. The shift of a curve is 1/4 the perpendicular offset from a tangent to the junction of the transition curve and the circular curve. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 264. When the side distance S is equal to the length of the vertical curve 2L joining two gradients minus plus G1 percentage and minus G2 percentage, then height of the apex is equal to the, we know L equal to G1 minus G2 into S square divided by 800H, the formula. So we got from the question L equal to S equal to 2L. So if we put the value, we will get H equal to the difference, the height H will be equal to G1 minus G2 into L divided by 400. So option number A is the right answer for this question. Question number 265. The autogenous curve for automobile corresponds to a lemniscate. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 266. The polar equation of a lemniscate curve is L equal to K into root over of sine 2 alpha. Option number B is the right answer, where alpha is the polar deflection angle of any point on the lemniscate curve. Question number 267. A lemniscate curve between the tangent is transitional throughout if the polar deflection angle of its apex is equal to 5/6, where 5 is the deflection angle. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 268. In a lemniscate curve, the angle between the tangent at the end of polar ray and the tangent at the commencement of the curve is, option number C is the right answer, 3 times the angle between the polar ray and the straight. Question number 269. A branch of surveying in which the horizontal and vertical distance of points are obtained by instrumental observation is known as tachymetrical surveying. Option number C is the right answer. Question number 270. A Stadia telescope in 10A tachyometer is fitted with, option number B is the right answer, 2 additional horizontal hairs. Question number 271. The principle of tachymetry is used, option number A for locating contours, right. Option number B for on hydrographic surveys, right. Option number C on filling details in topographic surveys, right. So option number D will be right answer, all of these. Question number 272. When a star is sighted through a telescope, a certain length of star is intercepted by the stadia lines. The star intercept varies with the distance at which the star is held. Yes, it's right. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 273. The multiplying constant for the tachymeter is F by A is the multiplying constant, where F is the focal length of the objective and I is the interval between the stadia hairs, and small d is the horizontal distance between the from the optical center to the vertical axis of the tachymeter. Question number 274. The additive constant for the tachymeter is F plus D. Question number 275. Multiplying constant for tachymeter is generally kept as 100. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 276. The value of additive constant for the tachymeter varies from C 30 to 45 centimeter. Question number 277. When the analytic lens is provided in the telescope of a tachymeter, the additive constant is 0. Option number A is the right answer. Question number 278. To the sum of first and last ordinates, add twice the sum of the intermediate ordinates. The total sum thus obtained is multiplied by the common distance between the ordinates. 1/2 of this product gives the record area. This rule of finding the area is called trapezoidal rule. Option number B is the right answer. Question number 279. To the sum of the first and last ordinate, add the twice sum of the remaining odd ordinates and 4 times the sum of the all even ordinates. The total sum thus obtained is multiplied by 1/3 of the common distance between the ordinates, and the result gives the record area. This rules of finding the area is called Simpson's rule. Option number D is the right answer. Question number 280. The The area of an irregular figure can be calculated accurately with the help of a planimeter. Right. Option number A is the right answer. True.